Okay, one, what I'd like to know from you is when did you wanted to get started in the showbiz, first of all?
As a kid, um, television was my window on the world, I suppose. And watching television and movies with my mom really captured my imagination. So I wanted to do that. And as a child, the only thing that I saw were the actors. So I thought, okay, I'm going to be an actor because that's how you do that entertainment thing. And so I went to, I started studying doing theater when I was in high school, and I studied theater in college. And after I graduated, I worked in a lot of regional theater shows and, a few TV and movie things. And and then I fell into writing. Actually, kind of fell into it when I started volunteering with a group called the 52nd Street Project in New York, where they would get artists from around the Broadway area to work with kids in Hell's Kitchen, writing short one-act plays and performing with the kids with the plays that we wrote. And someone saw something that I did. I was contacted by someone at PBS, and that's when the writing started.
Yes, and this is not before Nickelodeon, PBS, because I know it was Ghostwriter, the show you did some writing for. That correct?
Ghostwriter was my first, yeah, it was the first job, and it was, I'm a Miranda Barry who had seen a show with the 52nd Street Project, and they contacted me because they wanted someone on staff who could write the way kids talk at the time. And so I started off as a writer's assistant there. I was really, I loved into the job, and I was really lucky, and I started as a writing assistant there and got to write a script my first year, and then by the third season I was head writer, and then I moved over to do Gullah.
So did that help you after the show ended, the Nickelodeon, or did you go to them? Did they see your work and just contacted you to do Gullah Gullah Island for that pilot when it was the show was starting out?
There was a young woman who, unfortunately, I can't remember her name right this minute. She was a PA on Ghostwriter,
Hmm.
and then she left Ghostwriter and she went over to work at Nickelodeon. And I think she was a writer's assistant or something over there. And she called over to Ghostwriter, and she said that they were looking for writers for some shows at Nickelodeon to send in some stuff. And I think I was the only one who sent some stuff in. And they called me in for an interview, and I got the job.
And you got the head writer and the Nickelodeon Studios that was in Orlando, Florida, but you were there during its prime. What was your first impression of the place when you got there, though?
Oh, well, I always, loved anything about movies and movie studios. And so working at Nickelodeon Studios, it was my first time working at a big studio like that because the studio in New York for Ghostwriter was rather small. But
Hmm.
Nickelodeon had sound stages.
Yeah.
And so driving onto that lot the first time and then walking into the sound stage with Maria and just, they have those gigantic elephant doors where they move trucks and sets and stuff in. I tell you, wow, it was just like the thrill of my life. I mean, thinking back on it, it was just such a thrill, just to be in that kind of atmosphere and to see there's a show shooting over there and there's a movie shooting in that stage across there, and then we have a whole stage, where we had all the stuff for our show, and then upstairs there were offices, and uh, it was just it was a dream come true from a kid who grew up just, daydreaming and imagining about being in that kind of a situation. And, it was a really strenuous job because we shot two shows every week with kids, who had to learn, music and choreography. We recorded the music ahead of time, and all the scripts were written before we got to Florida because we had to have all of the stories and everything laid out so that we could shoot the documentary segment a few months before we even went down there. So, the scripts were pretty much written, but there was always a lot of tweaking and, cutting and this and that going on. but the days were sometimes like 14, 15-hour days for me. And even if I was like dragging myself down, down the elevator and out the building, I would just get such a kick out of walking by those sound stages on my way to my car. I mean, it's really geeky, but I would get such a kick out of that. It wouldn't matter. The hours and the fatigue would just melt away because being there was amazing.
And speaking of that, I know it sounded grueling because I always thought it was a kids show. You guys had to do two shows a day, but still at the same time there was choreography, there was singing all around. It was a musical atmosphere. So I'm really I
And
can imagine you guys had to work hard for it, work hard on the show.
when I think back on it, I'm flabbergasted that we got two shows done per week. We would do one show start Monday morning, and on Wednesday afternoon, by Wednesday afternoon, that first episode would have to be finished, and on after lunch on Wednesday, we start on the next episode that had to be finished by Friday. And you're working with children, and they have very strict hours for
Mm.
how long kids can work on a set. So it was just like nonstop. It was really, really crazy.
Yeah, and not to mention that Ron and Natalie, they were parents and they had their kids on the show, so they had to be on set and watch their kids and be around them and just let them be kids for a day. So that you guys had to take that in mind. Still, I'm gonna guess too.
Yes, and Sarah was so well behaved. She was a really terrific kid. And Simeon, who was in the show, he was just adorable. He was just a little toddler, and he was just um, so adorable. It's so funny. He was on the Have and Have Nots last week. He had a role as a dog, and he's all grown now. So it was just like so shocking seeing him as this
Hmm.
mean dog when he was. I just remember him as the sweetest little toddler. And Ron and Natalie, they were great parents. They made sure that they had time to take care of their kids. And all, Sarah was around the kids on our show. So, she got to play and hang out with them. And once in a while, she appeared on the show, too. And, the fact that we got these shows made is just, it's a big up to the kids on the show because they were fantastic. James Coleman Jr.,
Shayna
amazing.
Freeman, hmm,
Yes, Taina and Vanessa
Vanessa.
Baden, who was just like a young Catherine Hepburn. I mean, it's scary how good that girl was.
Ye-
And then we had Chuck Vincent directing, and gosh, we had such good directors too. That was so wonderful working with the kids. It was just, and then and Philip, who played Binya Binya while I was there.
Yeah.
Um, He was fantastic. I mean, it just was a bunch of people that were having fun but working really hard. And of course, Maria, my running buddy.
Yeah.
I love Maria Perez. All right, there's just an unabashed love affair. Working with her was just the best thing because I mean, I got to do a show with a woman who's like a sister to me, and she's just a real down to earth person, and we just laughed a lot. We just used to laugh all the time. I
Yeah.
love her. She's great. She's a great person. We work together twice on show, because we click. She knows how to handle me when I get in my mood.
Y-
Yeah.
Was it totally kind of like a culture shock moving from New York City to Florida? Because one, at the time, there was all this talk about Hollywood East and stuff, but as for you as a young writer, what was one of the beneficials of living and working there for your career and stuff?
Well, I mean, I think the benefit was that Maria liked to go first class, so we had really nice apartments and cars. I had a drop top Mustang and a really nice apartment and this nice, what do you call it, area. So it was really nice. But I tell you, it was, for me, I would wake up early in the morning. I would go get to the studio by 7 o'clock, 7:30. I would be there really early like that so that I could get stuff done before everything started with all the shooting and stuff because then people were coming in there asking questions and what about this scene and what about that? And then you you have to be on the set watching what's going on. So I had to get there early to get some, writing and stuff done. Then I had to be there on the set, making changes or whatever. And then after, we shut down, I had to go, okay, let's see what I got to do tomorrow. And that's why I was leave late. So I didn't really see a lot of Orlando. I mean, one of the good things about being in a place like that is that I wasn't around my regular friends. I wasn't around my regular relatives. So all I could do was be in that shell and concentrate on the work. So I would leave there, go back to the apartment, veg out, just fall asleep, get up, do the same thing over and over again. Which is why I think I don't really remember much about the heat, because everywhere I was always air conditioned.
Mm.
Studio was air conditioned, apartment was air conditioned. I mean, we would get out. I think a couple times I went to that, that Disney Walk place where they had all those restaurants and stuff.
Oh
Disney
yeah.
Walk or something like that.
Mhm.
I went there a couple times, and whenever we would just get too bogged down or too just like, ugh, we would head out to Universal Studios. They had a back gate that we could just go right into. I don't think we were supposed to, but we would just walk through that back gate and go in there and go on rides. I remember that green one, the Hulk ride, that roller coaster.
Oh yeah,
Loved
that's
that.
awesome.
And the King Kong. We had a King Kong exhibit at the time that was really great.
Yeah.
And our families got to come. Each time we worked down there, we would bring our families down to, hang out for a week or so. We'd rent an apartment for them.
Wow.
And they would, come and get to do the whole Orlando thing, go to Disney World, go to Universal Studios.
And Sea
It
World.
was always a great vacation for them. And the summer, was it Taina? I think it was Taina. The summer that we were there doing Taina, Maria's brother, Alex, came down, and he spent the summer with us. And he was like my assistant. He was such a great kid. He was about 16 at the time, and we just used to hang out like best friends. He was great. I mean, it was just so much fun. And me and him would always jump out there at the amusement park. And it was a great place. When you're working under a lot of pressure, you need to blow off some steam in a wholesome way, without the alcohol and the other stuff
Yeah, I know what you're
that
saying.
happens.
Mhm.
I mean, I thought it was, and I'm jumping a little bit ahead now, but when we were doing Taina in Orlando, it kept all of us in a bubble because, Orlando is a place that has nightlife and fun stuff to do, but it's not Hollywood.
Mhm.
And I think when we had moved the show to Hollywood, for the young kids who were in the show, it kind of became like a distraction, you know?
Okay.
And
Yeah.
that whole Hollywood thing
Yeah.
was not conducive to the kind of concentration you need when you're working every day on a production. So that was a great thing about Orlando because you had to be away from everything you mostly knew. You were in that bubble down there, and it was good, I think, for both shows.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. And not only that, Gullah Gullah Island, this was a kids show, and of course it was really extremely popular with lots of young children. But you guys had to really be on your A game, especially when the tour was going by. And I know kids must have been freaking out when they saw like Binya Binya on the soundstage, or mainly an actor. Do you remember the studio tour though?
Yeah, well, I remember looking up at the studio tour and seeing those people up there. And, basically, I'm a pretty shy person, so I kind of
Shared
tried
away from
how not
it.
to ever look up. I
Yeah.
just didn't look up because if I looked up and I noticed people there looking, then I would be self-conscious. So I rarely looked up after I, realized once we started there that there were people up there at different times, looking down. I just kind of kept my head down. It was fun for people, and that whole lab where they did that slime show and all that kind of stuff. I know that was lots of fun. Yeah.
That's funny. That's funny. Do you remember other shows that were taping there at the same time you guys were?
I think when we first got there, my brother and me were wrapping up their first season, I think.
Right, yeah.
And I remember meeting, what's the actress name? She was on My Brother and Me. She was really funny. She has a reality show now.
Kim Whitley.
Yeah. I remember I was in my office and we had just got to it. She came out of the office. She was like, "Hey, how you doing?" She's very funny. But I remember meeting her and seeing a couple rough cuts of my brother and me, which I thought was such a nice show. Um, I was really dismayed that they didn't do more of that show. But they were there, Alexa's Window, I think, Allegra's Window, or something like
Yeah,
that.
that's right.
I think there was another show, but that I think that the other shows were later when Taina was there.
Mm.
Yeah, like I said, I was in a bubble, but there were other things going around.
Oh yeah, all that was there too. The sketch comedy, all that. They
Oh
were.
yeah, I used to see Keenan and Kel and them sometimes in the hallway there. Yeah.
Was Taina a different experience from Gullah though for you?
Well, Taina was a very different experience because when we did Gullah, it was me down there doing all of the writing that had to be done on set. You know, we had, like I said before, we had written stuff earlier. The
Mm-hmm.
writers who had, we had given scripts to had written their stuff, and their jobs was done. So it was just me. Well, when we were in Orlando doing Taina, I had Anthony Hill as a writer on staff and Tracy Grant staff. So it wasn't that same, grind. I mean, it was still a lot of work, but it wasn't 2 shows a week. It was 1 show a week. Thank goodness. And I had 2 really talented and funny writers with me. So it was I'm not going to say it was a better experience. It was a different experience for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, I loved doing that show down there too. And like I said, I think the fact that everybody was away from their usual place, especially the young teenage actors, were not, they were away in a place where they just knew each other and they hung out together, and it just made the work gel and let them stay more focused than when we got to Hollywood. I mean, don't get me wrong, I loved working in Hollywood because I could drive from my house, in like 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, for the show and for the concentration that it takes, there are a lot more distractions in Hollywood than there are in a place like Orlando.
Wow. Yeah, I totally agree because one, I feel like Orlando, there was so many um, opportunities for local talent to get their starts in it, and especially with the sound stages and a TV studio lot such as Universal, it made sense that you guys had bigger plans to do it, especially for a musical variety show like that. And I also feel like
Mm-hmm.
in Hollywood, it was sort of, it's Hollywood, that's where young actors, that's where showbiz happens, but still there was something magical and unique about the Florida location and stuff, and it helped. They were both different in some ways, I would say that.
Well, I think both places have their good points, and both places have their distractions. But the distractions, and especially for young people, the distractions in Orlando were much more wholesome.
What's different is that this time you guys had to shoot in front of a live studio audience and stuff, but how much fun was that for you though doing that? I don't know if you ever saw them because like you said you were stuck in a bubble, but how great was that opportunity for you?
Oh, that was great. I mean, we all had to be down there on shoot day, and it was really fun because having come from theater and being an actor and being in theater, it was like getting to do a play every week. And that's great. Working with the crew, we had great crews. I mean, you know how usually in your life the bad experiences are the ones you always remember and think about. And since I got your email the other day, I was trying to think back. What do I remember? What do I remember back then? But there were no bad experience with those people that we worked with in Orlando.
Mm.
Nothing. Everybody was good. Everybody was professional and kind. There was a woman that was my writer's assistant, I think on Gullah Gullah. Her name was Doreen Caswell. That's the best person I ever wanted to know. It was just really good. There wasn't rampant egos. I think the saddest thing to me about the studio closing down there is that so many fine, hardworking people were put out of work over
Yeah.
there. People who had families and made a living, doing things like gaffers and key grips and lighting people and cameramen and camerawomen and all
Oh yeah, it is unfortunate. One of the things that I think made work in Florida is that this was out of your comfort zone, but still you guys were comfortable because it was such a family friendly environment and stuff. I think you guys were trying to put the best work that you guys can get out to. I think it wasn't as much pressure as say New York City or and Los Angeles is. That's what I feel like. Was just talking about that. Do you think that was what happened to Taina after it moved to Hollywood, the unfortunate demise of it? Or was it just like, because there's so many different rumors about it being canceled and stuff, but in your opinion, do you think you know what happened?
Well, there's lots of different reasons that go into shows demise. I think that it was premature, but there were things going on that, budgetary things and other things that I won't bring out that went into the decision of not continuing the show, which I think is unfortunate. But everything happens for a reason, and the powers that be, decided that was the decision they were going to make, and
Mm,
it's too bad.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but still, it's totally fine. And years later, so many people love Gullah Gullah and Taina, just '90s Nick in general. How does that make you feel to know it's held such a special place in people's heart and is still loved today?
Shocked. It makes me feel shocked. I remember one year somebody told me to check out Gullah on Facebook. And I went, and there's this whole big group of people that talk about growing up with color. And I was amazed when I told Maria, I was like, have you ever seen that? And, I mean, because, when you're doing it, especially at the time, when I was doing it, I didn't have kids, I was single and whatnot. And so to now have a kid and to run with the parents, and they say, well, what have you done? And I'll tell them this, and they go, oh my God, I grew up watching that, and all my kids watch this. And I mean, it's really rewarding to see that all that hard work that we put in has some staying power and has, some kids have grown up with it, and they're in college now, and they like it on Facebook. And, once in a while you actually hear from somebody. Somebody breaks through and you get a letter or, an email or something, and I mean, it's so rewarding, and it makes me feel proud, that the work that we did and Maria and Kathy's vision of what they wanted to accomplish, Maria, Kathy, and Kit Laybourne on Gullah, and Maria on Taina, that it was important to the audience out there, and that's a really good feeling, especially now that I'm a parent, and I see what my daughter likes and what she watches and how it impresses upon her.
Yeah, it definitely makes you appreciate it more. Do you mind, like, just explain what you are up to now? Are you still writing? Do you have any new shows that you're working on?
I just finished writing the first draft of a novel,
Mm-hmm.
and I also wrote a first draft of a young, a middle grade novel too for kids, for like middle school kids.
Mm-hmm.
So I have those two books in the work. Um, I haven't been doing a lot of TV. I moved to the North Carolina to be closer to my mom and family. And, when you have a family and you have a kid working 14, 15-hour days, it's just not a reality anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And, as you grow, you evolve. And so I'm really excited about the stuff that I'm writing now. I actually just started work on there's a preschool show called Peg and Cat,
Okay.
Peg Plus Cat. And I was contacted by this young lady who had worked on Little Bill years ago. She had been an animator, and now she's created this show that's very successful. And I got contacted by her a couple weeks ago and asked me if I would write an episode for them. So it's been a long time, kind of rusty from doing that, but I said yeah because she's really nice. So, I'll do that. But I'm really excited, hoping that my novel is published soon, by 2016. And who knows? I'm also working on developing a show with a couple of friends of mine too.
I just want to point out, like you said, there were so many great people in Florida and stuff, and especially with the studio closing, like I told you before, it's been 10 years, but would you like to see it reopen one day? Do you think it should come back? Because so many people just miss it, you know?
I think it would be fantastic if it reopens. I think it'd be fantastic for the city and for the economy of the city. And but I think that it depends on what kind of shows Disney or Nickelodeon are doing, because now things have kind of moved toward a lot of multi-camera stuff, and I mean not multi-camera, single camera stuff, and they have a lot of emphasis on animation. I don't think that there is a live audience or a lot of live action preschool stuff like there was when we had Gullah.
Hmm.
Um, but I mean, the great thing about Nickelodeon is that you had these great audiences that were there in the park, and then they came in to watch the show. I mean, it was terrific, and I
Yeah.
don't see why it wouldn't behoove any of these big places, whether it's Disney, Nickelodeon, or any of the other places that churn out kid stuff, why they wouldn't want to have access to that space right there next to that fabulous park, where they could have fans and audiences that are excited about seeing this stuff. I wonder. I mean, that whole place is just sitting there empty.
Not empty. Blue Man Group operates Stage 18 and stuff. That's what they're doing. They're currently at Universal right now. They're like a performing arts group of men. I'm not exactly sure. They're
Yeah, I've
performers.
seen them before.
Yeah, but yeah, that's what they have now. The other side is just kind of empty right now, but Stage 19 and stuff. There's still remnants of the Nickelodeon stuff is there, but you could still see it though. But still, it's always going to be Nickelodeon Studios to me, that place. That's how I feel
Yeah,
like
I
it.
still have my old passes from getting in the building they're hanging on their little ropes on the side in my office here,
Mm.
and a piece of there's a Gullah Gullah Island sign that says no entrance that we used to have on the door.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was like a time when you look back on it. I mean, as you get older, you look at those times when you look back and go, boy, that was some kind of nice time. It was like a magical experience being there. And it's a shame that it's closed now.
Mm.
But, I mean, I would hope that somebody would be smart enough to say, hey, this is a great place to do stuff. And, and then bring back a lot more work for the people in the community there, because there was lots of talent there.
Hmm.
Lots of talent.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And finally, this is going to be my last question, but I think you already said traces of it, but what do you think made it so great and special, the Nick Studios in Orlando, Florida?
First and foremost were the people that
Right.
worked there, from the security people to all the ones that worked on the cruise. We had fantastic crews. We had a fantastic art department, a fantastic costume department with Bruce running that, the makeup people. I mean, those are the things that really go into making the show that you don't see when you watch shows on TV. All those names that now it's kind of a shame, because now they kind of push those names really small and roll them up really super fast, that you can't read the name of the people who really, really are the ones who make these things work. And all of those people, were local. They were the above the line people, as they call them, which would include actors and maybe writers and directors. But all the people below the line who make up the bulk of those on the sets, and just the atmosphere that they created, and how they made the kids feel comfortable and welcome,
Yeah.
And that is something that I'll miss. And that is something that comes because of the people that work in that community, that were glad to have the jobs and glad to have us there. And we were so glad that they were there with us.
Yeah, and like I said, so many people. It was their first time working in television too. I mean, just when you're doing a first time for everything, you're just doing a lot of the best you can, because you want to do good work and stuff. And so, like I totally agree that the people there are what made it just fantastic place to work at. And
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, I totally agree, and yeah, I just hope that someone there who's just smart enough to just see that good television can be produced out of in Florida and stuff. But I think I've wrapped up everything that I've had to ask you, though. It was really good talking to you, I must say, Cass. I really can't thank you enough.
Well, you're welcome, and it was good talking to you too. And I appreciate you including me in your project. And like I said, best of luck.
Oh, appreciate it, man. No problem. All right, cool. Have a nice day, Cass. Talk to you later, okay?
You too.
All right, bye bye.
You too.